What is the worst place you had sex? I lived in Australia for a bit, and our studio had this black pleather couch. It looked exactly like that casting couch meme, so we tried it for fun once. My ex sweats a lot, even when it's not 40°C out. But it was, and we stuck to the couch like glue. I don't recommend on top of a piano. Very uncomfortable and not at all the experience we envisioned. Bottom of cliff next to the ocean. Turns out I have an allergic reaction to coral and my back was scratched the fuck up from it. It was windy, wet, and itchy. Runner up is a movie theater. On a hike in a wildlife refuge. We went off the trail to a more remote area. Was all fun and games till I got stung on the dick. Was after the event had ended when I was briefly exposed. The little bastard went right at me. We joke about it regularly. I'd say it comes up monthly. Just out of the blue she will say, hey, remember when you got stung on your penis? Yes. I remember and will never forget. A tree house that was actually a plywood shack on 6-foot stilts. It was pretty old and the plywood was splintery. So he laid down an old towel for me, you know. Like a gentleman. Also it was too small for me to fit in any direction. So my head stuck out the door. I stared at the sky and just waited for him to be done. And that's the story of how I lost my virginity. A close second would be the bed in his semi-abandoned house full of the semi-abandoned hoarded belongings of his mother. But that's a different story. Once in a only nearly empty train carriage. Just sat on his lap facing him in a hiked up dress. All fun and games, until you pull into a station, and there's a crowd of people on the platform looking directly at you through the window. TBF, me and this particular ex-BF were savages. We'd do it anywhere. Once in what we thought was an empty hotel ornamental gardens. We realized after that some dude was watching us from his balcony with a glass of wine and a cigarette. My childhood house had an enclosed porch that was level with my parents' bedroom window. It's hard to explain. You couldn't see into the porch from the window. But if the porch windows were open and the bedroom windows were open, you could hear everything from either room. So my now husband and I were trying to have sex in that porch. Having opened the windows cause it was hot AF. My parents usually never opened their window, and it was past 10. When they usually went to sleep. We weren't trying to be loud. But apparently we were. After we were done, I checked my phone, and I had 5 missed calls, and a text from my mother saying we can hear everything, and please at least use a condom. We didn't acknowledge it at the time, but my mom got drunk a few years ago, and told my aunt the story, and said she was worried she was hearing the conception of her grandchild. In a literal smokehouse. Lost my virginity with about 50 rings of deer sausage hanging around to dry. My friend and his dad were gone, and we were like, this seems like a great place. At least when I went home I smelled like venison instead of sex. I'm not sure if this counts, because we didn't get very far. But in a Burger King parking lot. I was like 15, and we both had very involved parents. He had a car. So we would park it someplace and hook up in the tiny little two-seater. I was sitting astride him, and most of my clothes were off when he froze. I looked over my shoulder and the once abandoned parking lot was abandoned no more. A family of 4 were just staring at us through the windshield. We didn't know what to do, so I just put my shirt back on, and we drove away. Edit. So apparently the fact that he had a car makes everyone assume this dude was way older than me. He was a grade ahead of me. His car was as old as he was and barely ran. He'd gotten it when he turned 16. I was not hooking up with a middle-aged man. We were both under 18. It was on the edge of a cliff. But it was such an awkward position that my knees hurt from being on the ground. The scenery was beautiful though. Hot leather sofa. I'm still stuck to it to this day. Met a girl online and we tried to do it at the park. A cop showed up before we started and told us we had to leave. We went back to our cars, which was at a small shopping mall. We went behind the shopping mall and got it on behind a dumpster. It worked out well, so we met up there again a week later. Except that time, as we were walking away, a dump truck picked the dumpster to empty the trash. Was hilarious at the time, but frightening looking back on it. This was about 10 years ago. while sitting on a tree stump that was home to a colony of termites. That did not end well. After a drunken night on 6th Street in Austin, girl and I were walking down Red River Street. She drags me in this bushy grassy area. We go at it. Finish. Call an Uber to West Campus. Continue going at it. The next day. We are super itchy. Come to find later it was poison ivy. Got it all over our genitals. Fun times. 10/10ths would do it again though. Not me. But a friend of mine had sex with a girl in the helicopter of McDonald's play place. He's never going to live that one down. A campground shower. People came in the bathroom while in the throes, and we had to just stand still, like we were avoiding a raptor attack, until they left, because they otherwise would have heard the bull slapping passion from behind a dinky stall door. Did I mention I was bent over? Blood rushing to my head and water in my face? Still with the guy though. He's a charmer. A construction site on a windy day. Sand and dust everywhere. Edit. Holy smokes. I can't believe this blew up. Thanks for enjoying this short story about me getting sand in my ass crack. Some guy's creepy basement in a sex swing. Hanoi, Vietnam. I was backpacking and sleeping in dorms. The dorm room had 8 beds. 6 of those beds were filled with my friends, one was a stranger. Come back from a night clubbing with an absolutely stunning, but trashy British girl. As we get in the room all my friends start cheering me as I climb the ladder to my bunk. The only privacy was this curtain, so you could still hear everything I was having trouble performing as it is, and then this German guy shouts, "Hey, can you not do this here?" to which the lovely Brit responds, "If you were inside me, you wouldn't be saying that, would ya?" Needless to say, it was a horrible experience, neither of us orgasmed. Tool shit in the backyard of a house in Hawaii. Naked on my hands and knees going at it, when my guy says, "Shit," and brushes something off my back. Feel something land on my forearm, and see a huntsman spider as big as my hand scuttling down my arm, and into the shadows. I scream and sit up, and see the ceiling of the tool shed has even more huntsman spiders. Crawled out of there like Gollum, and hid in the bushes. Made him bring me my clothes and shake them out hard, before I took them from him.